That's a deluxe birdhouse. That's not like your suburban ranch birdhouse. That's like a birdhouse condo. Hey guys, we're back in the park on a glorious day. Big blue skies. And this is a bit of a rough path. This trail is up and down, and we're gonna go up and down quite a bit today. Hopefully it's not too wet. Horse Swamp. That's where we're headed, Horse Swamp. And it rained yesterday. Hey Singapore, how's it going? A little bit warmer in Singapore than it is here. It's actually today, it's about the 60s Fahrenheit, which is like 15 Celsius, something like that. 13 to 15 Celsius. It's really sunny, but it was really cold this morning. And it's going to get cold this weekend. Down in like 5 Celsius, 10 Celsius. I have not planted my garden yet. I'm waiting probably for this weekend's cold snap, and then I think I'll plant. Hey, welcome to your first day on Periscope. Meteor Showers. You're in Maryland, along the shores of the Chesapeake Bay in the United States. Oh, someone's coming. We have to social distance. Oh, they have a dog, too.
That's what I said.
Grandma. Ooh, that's muddy. Okay, have to keep our distance. I actually swing into DC once every other week, mostly to get my mail and check on the apartment. But it doesn't look like we're going to be residing in our DC apartment anytime soon. We're staying at our home probably for the duration, probably for most of the summer, to be honest. DC is extraordinarily cautious about reopening. They are not on a path towards reopening right now because their case count continues to increase. Maryland and Virginia have said they'll consider reopening if things just sort of plateau, but in DC the situation continues to get worse. So DC is weeks, if not months, away from reopening. And as such, it's just easier for us to stay in our home rather than our tiny apartment. Yeah, squirrels. See some squirrels. You asked about dangerous animals. Technically, there are copperheads, venomous snakes in this area. I don't see many of them, but knock on wood. There are foxes, there are deer, there are raccoons, possums. I swear I have seen a bobcat in this area. Nobody else believes me. There are no bears to speak of. Bears are about 60 to 100 miles north of here and west. On the other side of DC is about like in Manassas. Manassas is where the first Battle of Bull Run took place during the Civil War. It's about 20 to 30 miles from DC. They've seen bears in Manassas. They've seen bears in like Frederick, Maryland, which is like 20, 30 miles north of DC. I'm right now 20 to 30 miles south and east. So bears, this isn't really bear territory. There are no real mountains down here. So this path is actually uphill and downhill. You really get a workout on this path. It's not as long as the other path I hike at this park, but this one, it's worth it. Now, the other day I took you to a different park. That was the hike that we went down to the swamp. This is going to go through a different swamp. This is called Horse Swamp. Living internationally, yeah. So I lived in Hong Kong for 10 years, and we were reassigned to Washington, D.C. for a 2-year assignment. And, well, we're here now, and now the pandemic, of course, has made everything a mess. So we're really not sure what comes next. We paid a deposit for our kids to spend another year here in D.C., though that could change. It's really rough. It's really rough. With kids, stability is a big thing. And now we're looking back. Hong Kong has basically beaten the coronavirus. Hong Kong had 1,000 cases and 4 deaths. And that's in a population the size of, say, Maryland, 7 million people. So a lot of people who fled Hong Kong at the beginning of the crisis have now returned because you can have a normal life in Hong Kong, more or less, more normal than here. You can still go to restaurants. Kids are out playing with each other. The clubs are open, like the American club. How did Hong Kong beat it? It's actually a pretty interesting story. Hong Kong, you have to remember that Hong Kong has done it before. All right, Hong Kong went through SARS. Hong Kong experiences bird flu outbreaks and other pandemics. So this is not the first time for Hong Kong. And that's a big, big deal. It's a big deal because the people of Hong Kong are what really beat it. The government, because it's beholden to Beijing, the government would say certain things like, you don't need to wear a mask, people can cross the borders. The people are like, bull. People were wearing masks for January 1st. People demanded that the borders be shut immediately. People started social distancing, teleworking instantly. They did this on their own volition. They didn't wait for the government to order it. They didn't fight it. They just did it. In addition, Hong Kong, it's technically kind of an island. There's only one way in, the airport or the roads, and every single person who arrives in Hong Kong is tested at the airport and then sent immediately to a 14-day quarantine. Now, you can quarantine in your house, or you can quarantine at a government quarantine facility. Every person is given a GPS bracelet that is basically attached to their hand and cannot be taken off. And it reports their data every few minutes where they are located. If they go outside, they are arrested and taken to a government quarantine facility where they can't get out. So, my friends have been writing about they land at the airport. They're at the airport for 12 hours awaiting their first test results. No, actually, I've been talking to the expats. Most expats are going to stay in Hong Kong this summer. Usually, the end of school, all the expats go back to England, Australia, the United States. But this year, we've heard from a number of our friends, they're going to have a staycation in Hong Kong this year. There's Horse Swamp down there. We're going to go down there in a bit. So, yeah, I think it's just, it's not just masks, but the people in Hong Kong, because we went through SARS, we started, they basically outlawed public spitting many years ago. And I'll give you an example. Everyone who comes into the city gets a bracelet, a GPS bracelet. They have to wear it for 2 weeks. I'll give you an example. They clean the escalator handrails on the subway platforms every hour. They wash the elevator buttons. They pick up the trash in the public trash cans. They just do all of these things, these little things that add up. I got guidance from our pediatrician in Hong Kong, and it was things I didn't even think about. For example, like always take your own pen with you. Do not use a pen to sign a credit card receipt from the store. Use your own pen. I was like, oh, that's interesting. They had these little things people were carrying. take a stick to push elevator buttons, stuff like that. That's the people knew what they were doing, and that made a huge difference. The people were on top of it because they'd done it before. You remember SARS? SARS was devastating. See, on December 31st, the Chinese television said there is a possible outbreak of SARS in Wuhan. And literally, almost overnight, everyone in Hong Kong flipped on into full pandemic mode. Right like that. They didn't have to be told. They didn't have to wait. They just did it because they'd been through SARS. Yeah, so we're down in Horse Swamp right now, which is kind of a swamp. That said, now what Hong Kong did isn't actually always reproducible everywhere else in the country, the U.S. Are we going to send our kids to school in the fall? Big discussions. Depends on the situation next month or two. A lot of people are looking at May 15th as the first of many deadlines. Where are we May 15th? Are we getting better or are we getting worse? And the second deadline is June 15th. If we continue to get better by June 15th, then it's looking promising. But if it's not getting better on June 15th, then it's not looking good for July. So it's going to be rough. I fully suspect there will be some distance learning at least next year. I didn't show you the bridge. It's a really narrow bridge. Yeah, more and more are. Wow, that green bug. That was really green. So we're in Horse Swamp. Don't know why it's called Horse Swamp, but it is. It's like walking through these swamps, I think about like Revolutionary War and Civil War type, like when soldiers would be hiking through here. SARS was more fatal, but it didn't spread as easily, and that's why they were able to kind of get it under control. Though it's still out there, we think. We don't know. It scares the bejesus out of everybody. Ugh, that was muddy. There was a man named Carlos Urbani, Urbani. And Carlos Urbani was an infectious disease specialist with the World Health Organization. And as it is, he got the notification that there was trouble in Hong Kong. So he flew to Hong Kong to investigate. Then people said, well, it might be spreading to Vietnam. So he said, okay, I'll go to Vietnam. On the flight over to Vietnam, he started getting sick. He's like, oh God, I really don't feel well. I kind of got a fever. So he told the flight crew, please, I need you to give me some seats with nobody next to me, and I need you to call the Vietnamese authorities, and I want a hazmat ambulance crew to meet me at the airport. So they did. They met him, took a couple hours, got him into a ward, started treating him, but unfortunately he passed away. He died. This was one of the World Health Organization's top doctors, and he died from SARS only in the first week or two. It sent a shudder around the medical community. Carlos Urbani used to work for MSF, Doctors Without Borders. In fact, he accepted the Nobel Peace Prize on behalf of MSF in Oslo. But he died 2 weeks into the SARS outbreak, and that was kind of a sign. Sorry, I'm going uphill. Kind of a sign of one of the WHO's top doctors can't handle this disease and died from it. What chance does everybody else have? That focused a lot of energy and a lot of public health resources from the very get-go. So in a way, tragic as it was, he left 2 children. He also saved lives. His death spurred others on to more serious actions. Anyway, an interesting story from 15 years ago. Look at these green bugs. I'll try to show one. I'm pretty sure there will be. Okay, there he is. You see it? The hell kind of bug is that? Isn't that a beautiful bug? Look how green he is. This is also a chance for me to catch my breath. I don't really have a problem going uphill. It's just when I go uphill and I'm talking, that can be rough. I don't know what it is. Green bug. But it was such a vibrant green. There was an interesting article the other day, it was the Washington Post or New York Times, maybe even the Wall Street Journal, about birdsong. People are noticing, people are saying, my God, ever since the virus, the birds have gotten so loud. And of course, ornithologists are saying, actually, the birds are the same noise that they've always been. They're just not being drowned out by cars and subways and noise and people. You can hear them now for the first time. And people are just kind of shocked in these big cities. They're like, there really are a lot of birds out there. It's actually something people have enjoyed. You know, they're opening the window and they're actually hearing the birds call. There was a good piece in the New York Times yesterday talking about the reopening. And it said that some people have really discovered they hate the office. They hate the commute, they hate the gossip and the time wasted, and they're just far, far more productive working from home. And there's a lot of speculation that when this is all over, many employers are going to be pushed by their employees into much more flexible working arrangements. You know, 2 days in the office, 3 days at home. And this might actually have an impact on real estate. Companies won't need as big an office if everybody's not there. It's cheaper, less driving, more time with the family, for better or worse. There's a farm off to my left. Hasn't planted yet. Perhaps I always remember there was once an earthquake in Los Angeles, and it knocked out power for much of the city. Los Angeles went to bed in total darkness, unlike the people had never seen before. And 911 hey, how's it going? 911 in Los Angeles was getting all these calls. People were saying, what's wrong with the sky? What is that? And people, the 911 dispatcher's like, what are you talking about? And they went outside and they looked, and of course what it was, you could actually see the stars. You could see the other spiral arm of the Milky Way. People in Los Angeles had never seen the Milky Way. And I mean, if you've never seen it yourself, trust me, it's one of those things you really have to see to realize how infinitesimally small your problems are compared to those of the universe. But all these people went outside and they saw the other spiral arm of the Milky Way, and it actually freaked them out enough to call 911. I've been debating buying a new telescope for my children. The problem is when I buy stuff, I always want to buy like the absolute best possible thing. So yeah, I want to buy a telescope, but the telescope I want to buy is like $2,000. I'm just like, do I really want to spend $2,000 on a telescope? Meteor showers, cool. I can see meteor showers at my house. I have actually, this is a once in a lifetime kind of thing. But here in Maryland, one night, I saw aurora borealis, or at least a solar wind. I looked up into the sky, and the sky turned from red to green at like 11 at night. It was just like, whoa. And then I went up and checked out the solar weather report, and there was a thing saying you may see some sky activity as far south as Maryland. And I was like, whoa, I saw it. This was before the days of the iPhone. Yesterday was a crazy day. If you guys go to my Instagram, Penguin6, I took 4 photos yesterday of my backyard. And it was just like totally crazy. That's what I'm thinking. I was going to get a 14-inch Dobsonian. I just happened to be looking out the window. My house is on the Chesapeake Bay, so the view to the east is very, very dark. I see I can see a lot of stars and stuff. I have followed satellites before. I haven't followed ISS per se. I think I did once look for a dot, but I've seen photos with like the 14-inch telescope I was looking at, and you could even see the solar panels, which would be kind of cool. Especially when it goes in front of the sun, you can get like a shadow kind of photo. The night sky app, yeah, I think I have some of those apps. Oh, there's another one. There's some bugs again. Those green bugs. The thing, I wanted to get the Dobsonian, but I'm just wondering, should I really get that, or should I go more into like astrophotography? I wanted to buy a new camera. I've been talking about buying a new camera for a few years now. I was like, maybe I get a new camera with a good like astrophotography lens, light filter and stuff, and then just set that up and take some really cool photos. Because the thing about Dobsonians is I don't think they're that good for photography. I've read back and forth. Guys are like, you don't get this kind of telescope if you want to take photos. And then I'm like, another guy's like, you can do it. So I'm not really sure. Then part of me is just like, why don't I DIY a Dobsonian telescope? That would be a cool project, Why spend all this money? I just build one in the garage. God darn it, hang on, bugs. Blue Angels in Fort Worth. That's kind of cool. You may know they were here in D.C. over the weekend with the Thunderbirds. And hundreds of people got outside and stood next to each other to watch them. Crap. This bit my lip, I think. Trying to defend myself from a flying insect. The problem with the telescope is what my dad calls the trampoline effect. Hey kids, trampoline, yay, yay. Next day, you want to play on the trampoline? Nah, not really. This is a big old tree. Yeah. No, I still got a ways to go. If I'm where I think I'm at. Yeah, I have quite a ways to go. I thought I was almost done with this trail, but the reality is I'm not. I forgot about this part. Back through the swamp again. See you later. Have a good meeting. Some green bugs are everywhere. The green bug I showed you, there's like dozens of them now. They're like flying around me. It's kind of annoying, actually. Yeah, I mean, trampoline can be risky. But the issue is that, kids are interested in something for 24 hours, maybe. And then, I don't want to play with it. That's how I'm afraid of plopping down several $1,000s on a telescope that they play with once or twice. I'd play with it. But a 14-inch Dobsonian telescope is big. I mean, it's the size of a water heater. Yeah? It's like, where am I going to put this water heater? problem with my kids right now is that they don't want to do anything outdoors unless I do it with them. Like, go outside and play badminton. You come and play. Go outside and play soccer. You come and play. It's like, well, kids, I have work to do. No, come and play. Today, actually in about an hour or so, their internet's going to shut down. And they're going to start screaming and crying. Dad, the video game, I was in the middle of a round. Tough. Daddy controls everything. I use what's called a Disney Circle device. A Disney Circle is a parental control device. I limit the amount of time they can be on YouTube or video games, and once they reach that limit, their internet access is shut down automatically. Yeah, there are a few star parties. Of course, everybody has a view that, like, oh, I'm going to have this amazing view of the red spot of Jupiter. And then they look through it and they're like, oh, it's the size of a silver dollar. The whole planet. Yeah. I've watched, there's a lot of interesting videos, like, what telescope to buy. And it shows you like real life comparisons. This is what you'll see with this. This is what you'll see with that. Da-da-da-da. Yeah, it's the Disney Circle device can limit kids' access to all sorts of different websites and limit the time. It can schedule break time. For example, every night at 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock it shuts down so they can have dinner. Yeah, you expect these like Hubble telescope-like photographs of the cosmos, and then you look at them and you get like these like two little dots, and you're like, what? That's why astrophotography is kind of interesting. This is kind of like a wash or a wadi or something. I guess Americans call it a ravine. Arabs call it a wadi. Brits call it maybe a wash or something. Oh. Yeah, you don't get those photos. See, I grew up in the country, and we used to see tens of thousands of stars just sitting in the backyard. And it actually has kind of a humbling effect on a person, I think. You realize, A, you're not the center of the universe. B, your problems aren't that big of a deal. That's kind of what I wanted to impart that lesson onto the kids. And the best way I thought to do that was, to take a look at the galaxy. I remember when I was a kid, I used to look at the moon. I thought mission control was in the moon. I was very disappointed to find out that mission control wasn't in the moon. DC is in lockdown right now. DC will remain in lockdown for some time. As our case count continues to grow, our deaths continue to grow. DC is not coming out of lockdown anytime in the next few weeks. Maryland and Virginia are pushing to come out of lockdown a bit early, a bit prematurely compared to the guidelines that are presented by most doctors, but they want to get reopened. So Maryland will institute phase 1 possibly in 10 days, and I think Virginia is looking at about the same time frame to start phase 1, which is a limited opening but not full scale. Schools are closed until the end of the school year. They will not reopen. Yeah. The big debate is a lot of states have decided to to abandon the decline and move instead to a plateau. As long as it's not getting any worse. Guys, the signal's getting weird because my son is calling me. It's very, very annoying. Turn on the Wi-Fi. I think he's in the middle of class. Ah, drat. I don't think it turned off. We'll see. But if we get disconnected, that's him screaming probably. Yeah, this was a long part I forgot about. Go ahead with your question. Yeah, it is a pretty cool path. A lot up and down, though. We're in the American Chestnut Tree Land Trust, which is a private park and nature reserve in southern Maryland. This is a privately owned park, basically, which is next to my house. Yeah, it's pretty mellow, isn't it? Oh, God, the kids. I went to that overlook the other. Let's go this way. Do you need to pay it or no? It's free. It's free. This. I hear a plane. It's a pretty large plane. But, oh, there's a deer down there. I think. It was big. It ran away. Must be a deer. No bears. Patuxent River Naval Air Station is just down the way about 5 or 10 miles. So we get a lot of military aircraft flying around. Now I'm getting WTF messages from my son. We'll have to stop when we get to the overlook, which is just up ahead. Yeah, they are made to be addicting. Oh yeah, I feel much better after hiking. That's kind of why I felt so blah lately. Haven't done enough hiking. The other day I was going to buy a new treadmill. So this guy on Craigslist was going to sell a $3,000 treadmill for $700. I was like, done, deal. I'll come get it. He's like, yeah, call me tomorrow. Great. So I call him the next day. He said, oh, I sold it this morning. I'm like, dude, I would have come last night. Anyway, I was kind of bummed about that. People are flaky. People are flaky sometimes. I was more bummed about missing out on the savings. So now I got to find a new treadmill. And we're down at the Chesapeake Bay, just off behind those trees. You should be able to see water. Maybe I'll find a way to show you. End of the trail. I don't know why, he just did it. It's kind of annoying. So over there, that's the bay. You can see the water behind all the trees there. And that makes its way out into the Atlantic Ocean down in Virginia, about 50, 60 miles south. So, anyway, we've reached the end of the trail, and now we have to head back, but I'm going to have to sign off because I got to deal with a kid going ape crazy right now. I've never personally owned a treadmill because I've always lived in buildings that had gyms. So I understand, though, it isn't actually the easiest. There's some maintenance you have to deal with, which I'm not looking forward to. I'll sit down for a second. All right, guys, thanks a lot for coming on my hike with me. We'll see you again soon. This will go up on YouTube. I've got a whole bunch of videos going on YouTube this week. Penguin 6 on YouTube. Thanks again for watching. Catch you next time.